Welcome everyone, and to the public portion of the Southampton Town Planning Board, June 26, 2025. May we have a roll call, please?
Chair LaFaro.
Present.
Vice Chair Finnerty.
Present.
The Secretary is here. Board Member Mutu.
Present.
Board Member Neely is absent. Board Member Fulham is absent. Board Member Glazer.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we're going to go a little bit out of order and go to number 2 first, Charlie Fox. Do we have notice, Council?
We do, Madam Chair.
Okay. Gloria, do you want to read that into the record?
Please take notice in accordance with local law number 14 of 2022. A public hearing will be held by the Southampton Town Planning Board on Thursday, June 26, 2025 at 6 p.m. at Town Hall, 116 Hampton Road, Southampton, and via video conferencing to consider the pre-submission conference entitled Charlie Fox. The application proposes to utilize an approximately 1,500 square foot building for retail cannabis sales situated in the Highway Business Zoning District, HB, located at 471 County Road 39, Tuckahoe, Suffolk County Tax Map number 900-158-1-29.
Thank you.
For the applicant, David Gilmartin, Greenberg, Chorg, 2317 Montauk Highway, Bridgehampton. As the legal advertisement notes, this is an application for a marijuana dispensary. It's on a parcel in the HB, so it's a special exception, site plan special exception application, and this is the pre-submission conference. I guess I'd say the highlight of the application is it's that they're using the existing structure on site. There won't be any expansion of the building, so they'll retrofit the building for the use. The current CO, although my recollection is wasn't being used consistently with the CO, but the current CO has retail and then auto and bolt upholstery. There was a separate transmission shop in the back here many years ago, but that's long since gone. And that's really the long and short of it. We'll try and answer any questions, but we're here to listen to the public.
What is directly behind this facility?
Here,
Yes.
that's the Tuckahoe School District property.
So this is the 500-foot separation, right?
Well, it has to be along the same street. So Tuckahoe Street's on North McGee, and this is on County Road 39.
That's a state special exception standard, though.
It is, and we have gone through OCM, and they have cleared the site for that, on that issue.
It just will be subject to our special exception standards. Yeah.
Understood. It's the same language. You've copied the same language, so it's the same argument.
I
think
believe that field that's outlined in yellow is also part of the school.
These are two school properties, actually.
School properties, and so it touches the corner of that proposed cannabis. So we'll be looking at that as well.
the language of the law is along the same street, so it's
The
not
states.
on the same street. Yeah.
The state language. I don't know.
And I think that the code, your code, has the same exact language. I think it mirrors the state code language.
I thought there was a separate.
We'll get to it when we get to a
Okay.
pre-submission
Right,
conference
this is
report.
just- yeah.
But
Yeah.
there's different, they have the general standards and then the specific standards. The
Right.
specific standards mimic the state standards, and then the general standards. So
Right.
we'll look at
And-
all of them.
And we'll talk about, the landscape plan and dealing with the back of that. Right?
Is there anyone, Kevin, on Zoom?
No one on Zoom.
Anyone in the audience wishes to speak to this application? Anyone on the board? So I'll ask for a 30-day written comment period. Motion by Dennis, second by Gloria, and all in favor. Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 2 absent.
4.
Four in favor, one, two, yes, four in favor, two absent. Can we go to
Abstain.
Five.
Five.
One.
Five. And
one, two, three, four,
Late in the
five?
day.
It's been a long
I
day.
amend that, five in favor, two absent.
Thank
you. Thank you. We're going to Denise Maynard, and we have notice,
We do, Madam
council.
Chair.
And do you want to read that, David?
Sure. Please take notice that in accordance with Local Law 14 of 2022, a public hearing will be held at Southampton Town Planning Board on Thursday, June 26, 2025 at 6 p.m. at Town Hall 116 Hampton Road, Southampton, and via video conferencing to consider the pre-application entitled Denise Maynard. The application consists of a standard plan for a two-lot subdivision on a previously improved parcel with Lot 1 to be 81,389 square feet and previously improved with an apartment above a garage and accessory structures, and Lot 2 to be 25,080 square feet and previously improved with a single-family dwelling and accessory structures in the R60 zoning district located at 240 Halsey Lane in the Agricultural Overlay District and the New York State Archaeological Sensitive Areas, Bridgehampton, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900-87-1-7.5.
Carl Benacasa, 860 Montauk Highway, Watermill, New York, for the applicant. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. What you're staring at, what you're looking at is a 106,469 square foot lot. As noted, it's located in the R60 zoning district. The proposed subdivision, given the odd shape of the lot, would actually create one conforming and one non-conforming lot. That is, one lot to have an area of 81,389 square feet, and that's this larger portion here. And then the smaller portion would be 25,080 square feet, and that's the portion to the east. As we are in an R60 zoning district, we would need a variance for lot area for that smaller lot. Our reason for seeking that variance and subdividing it as mentioned is one, to accommodate existing structures, many of which have been there for decades and decades and decades, and two, just the natural orientation of the lot. And finally, if you look at the two lots to the north and the lot to the south, you'll see that that area has lots of that general size and shape, which would be the basis for our request for relief to the zoning board. But of course, first we go through the pre-submission process here, and that naturally we would understand that to be a condition of final approval. In addition to the variance that we'll seek for lot area, we would need variance relief for setbacks to accommodate the existing structure on now the two new lots. I would note that this is not expanding the residential capacity, the subdivision of this lot. As noted, by virtue of a variance granted in 1991, there is a residential apartment, a secondary residential apartment on that, what is that larger area that Anthony's circling right now. So the density would not, the density proposed as a result of this subdivision would not be increased from what is currently the residential density on the lot. I understand the property has been referred to the landmarks and historic districts by the planning board, where the board expressed concerns the property lines to be drawn that will impact, in a way that will impact existing structures. Again, that is not our intent. Our intent is to draw that line and obtain variances so that the new lines would in no way impact the existing structures. This is being done for no reason other than a division of family resources. Members are here, of that family are here today. They intend to keep the lot as currently developed and to use it, both lots, for purposes of the family.
So you have two access points, one off Halsey and one,
Yeah, one off the
Morgan Hill Way?
Morgan Hill, I'm sorry, yes.
Morgan Hill, and one off Halsey, or?
There's one off Halsey now, and then one off Morgan Hill to the north. So there would be no access issue.
Okay.
And just to reiterate, as you can see, the lot you would ultimately be creating to the east is in conformity with the size and shape of existing lots along that corridor.
And you're in the Ag Overlay District and the archaeologically sensitive area.
So we understand that would be part of the,
Yeah.
referrals and recommendations in line with that would be part of this process.
Any questions on the board? Anyone in the audience wish to speak to this? No? Is there anyone on Zoom, Ken?
No one on Zoom.
Not on Zoom? Okay, we will close with a 10-day written comment period. Motion by Gloria and second by Dennis. All in favor? Opposed, extensions? 5 in favor, 2 absent. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Have a nice evening. Thank you.
So we're moving into Spionk floating photovoltaic. That's a mouthful. Dennis, we have notice?
We do, Madam Chair.
Dennis.
Please take notice that in accordance with local law 14/2022, a public hearing will be held by the Southampton Town Planning Board on Thursday, June 26, 2025 at 6 p.m. at Town Hall, 116 Hampton Road, Southampton, and via video conferencing to consider the pre-submission conference entitled Spionk Floating Photovoltaic. The application proposes the development of a commercial-scale solar project, 5,000 kilowatt DC floating photovoltaic on a proposed 14-acre water body on a 32.9-acre parcel currently used as a sand mine located in the CR 200 zoning district at 1166 Spionk Riverhead Road, Spionk, Remsenburg, tax map 900-3021-1.3.
Good evening,
Okay.
Madam Chairwoman, members of the board. Nice to see you again. Kevin Brown, Fogel and Brown, Syracuse, New York, and I'm counsel for Next Gen Property Management, who's the applicant here. This project, we've been before the board a number of times, as you recall, and we had a number of questions that you wanted answered, and we worked on that. And also the first question, or the first issue last year was that we had a plan for a single-phase development it'd be done in 4 years. As we advised when that was, we were told 4 years was too far out. We told you we'd come back with a phased plan, so we want to describe that to you tonight. We've also been mining for the last year. So the situation we're in now, whereas before we said, well, it'll be about 4 years and we'll have this done with a phased plan, and we can be providing solar power to the community in about 18 months now, because right now we've developed a phase plan to start in the north and then move south. We have feasibility analysis that we prepared, and what I want to do is step through the folks that are here that are going to just briefly present to you. I have Regina Bykoff from PW Grosser. They're the site civil engineer. She'll give you the site plan layout and what the phase plan is. I have Stephen Oney. You've met him before here. He's with Metz, and he will provide an overview of the feasibility of the project and how floating solar, how it's deployed, how it works, and how we can finance it. And then finally, there's been a number of questions about possible impacts, and we'll address those. Chris Amskag from PW Grosser will address noise, visual, traffic, and we'll spend a little bit of time with you on groundwater, because I know that's a big concern with the community and with the folks on the board. So with that, I'll hand it over to Regina. Thank you.
Sorry, we don't have an easel.
That's okay. I noticed that you do have our site plan up, so thank you so much. Thank you for hearing us, Madam Chairwoman and board members. I do have copies of a slide presentation that I had put together. It's only, I think it's 4 or 5 slides, so it's not huge, but I'd like to distribute them for everybody.
We'll pass them down.
Thank you. So my name is Regina Bykov. I'm with PW Grosser Consulting, 630 Johnson Avenue, Bohemia, New York, consultant for the property owner. I don't normally like to read directly off of a slide, a presentation slide, but because we're presenting to the public right now, I think that it would be a good idea just to read a general overview description, which you all have in front of you. So the Spionk Floating Photovoltaic project is a project that will develop a 5,000 kilowatt AC floating voltaic system, including site grading, construction of access roads, installation of floating solar panels on a 14-acre pond remaining after mining operations cease. Supporting infrastructure will include electrical equipment on concrete pads and connection to the utility grid. Site improvements will comply with the Town of Southampton site plan requirements, including fencing, setbacks, and other zoning standards as outlined in the town code. And access to the facility will be from Spionk Riverhead Road.
So is this 14 acres in total, or just the 14 acres cleared?
So right now, the total acreage cleared is the life of the mine, which is 32.9 acres. There is an existing pond on the site, which is currently approximately 5.5 acres. And the proposed pond, which Kevin had referenced, is 14 acres. So this application would be for the solar panels to encompass the 14-acre lake.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. I know that we are here for a special use permit request. The site is zoned CR 200, so it's a residential zoning zone property. I just wanted to point out before I get into the actual site plan, the location of the facility, which you should have on your slides as well. It's probably hard to see it on here, so maybe if we can just zoom out. And if you could just kind of circle the areas that I'm talking about, if I'll describe them to you, if you don't mind.
Actually, you have to say what you just said again. What do you want
Yeah,
me to do?
so I'm going to just go through the property uses along the perimeter of the mine, just to give you an idea of what's in that area. So to the west of the pond, across Spionk Riverhead Road, currently there is an auto salvage yard. There is also a former sand and gravel mine. It is now a Part 360, so if you scroll more west, right there. Yep. So that is a Part 360 recycling facility that processes RCA, concrete aggregate, topsoil, mulch, and compost. If you scroll a little south, maybe a little bit up, I'm sorry, I might have went too far. There is an asphalt plant. Yep, right there. South of the pond is lands owned by NextGen, the same property owner as the application, which is a former mulch processing area. They do not process mulch anymore. I think that operation ceased about 10 years ago. To the east of the property, there is a sand and gravel mine with a pending, I believe, 50-acre, 10,000 kilowatt land-based commercial solar energy system. And then north of the site is Sunrise Highway, and there's a catch basin northwest of the corner of the pond. So it's a New York State DOT catch basin. So I just wanted to set the stage of what the surrounding area looks like. I believe the nearest residence is about a half a mile away from this property.
What are the properties that are in yellow,
Oh, these? County.
county owned? Thank you.
So I'd like to just step through now the site plan, which is up here. So as I stated before, the entire project will be located within the 32.9 permitted life of mine. There will be no new clearing. There's approximately 6 acres that have been excavated already. And the site has been fully disturbed. Like I said, there'll be no new clearing. It's been fully disturbed. And all of our proposed development will be within any setbacks that are required in the code. So I think that's 100-foot rear and front yard setbacks and 50-foot side yard setbacks. We will have a fence that surrounds the perimeter of the property with a self-locking gate. I want to step through really the phasing plan. I think that's important because, like Kevin also mentioned, that was something that was possibly an issue. Up here, we do have the phasing plan laid out. We had a description here. It has changed a little bit in our own internal discussions about how best this project could move forward. So our current plan would be phase one would be to create this access. This access point is actually here already, but create this access road, set up a staging pad up here where we can bring our solar panels and put them together. In the meantime, we're going to continue excavating sand and gravel in this north area of the pond. Once that excavation is completed, the dredge will move to the south area of the pond. These solar panels will be deployed and connected to the interconnect, so there'll be 2.5 megawatts available at that time. The next phase will be the dredge will continue to excavate. Once that's finished, we'll pull the dredge out along this ramp that we're going to create for temporary access. We're going to stage the solar panels here down at the south end, and we'll float those out and connect up here again, another 2.5 megawatts. And that essentially is the project. Once that is established, we anticipate that we would be able to keep those in place and provide solar power for the electric grid for approximately 25 years. Once that period of time has passed, they can be removed and the lake can be reclaimed in a different fashion. And if you look at the last slide that I have on here, I do have a little bit of a rendering from another consultant, just showing some of the options that could be available for that final reclamation. So boat access, a picnic area, fishing, things along that nature. The floating voltaic panels or the floating solar panels, they'll be used as an interim measure for reclamation, so it wouldn't be we wouldn't be looking to keep them permanently installed. And I guess, Steve, you can go into that a little bit more, at least at this point in the game. And this is compatible with the DEC's approved reclamation plan that we have with the DEC, and it will not impact the facility's ability to comply with the town's new emerization law. Is there any questions?
Is there any battery storage associated with this facility?
There is no battery storage currently associated with this facility.
You indicated an interconnection to the grid. Does that already exist?
We
So-
have the interconnection study submitted.
You're going to have to come up
Yeah, I'm
because
sorry.
you have to.
We have the interconnection study already submitted to LIPA, and so we're waiting on that. We submitted it in May, so we're still waiting for the final response on that. But there is potential for connection right there. It's a matter of, can the grid handle an additional 5 megawatts, which I'm pretty certain they can in that location. So that's how that's usually done.
Was there also an issue with the access, an access road, you had to secure an easement over some other property to get into this?
No, that was the other project.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they were coming across our property, actually.
Oh,
That was the issue with that one.
Sir, can you just identify yourself? for
Yes,
the record?
yeah,
You might as well stay up there.
yeah, I might as well stay up here. Let me hand out my slides real quick. You folks have seen me a few times, so I probably will go fairly quickly through at least the introductory stuff. I'm Dr. Steve Oney. I represent the Marine Energy Technology Solutions, and we're a global company that works on infrastructure in water projects throughout the globe in the DoD. So that's my background and experience in this. Now, the first slide there that you can see is basically just addressing the fact that floating solar is no different than land-based, other than the way the solar panels are mounted. Okay, in a traditional land-based system, as you're familiar with, you typically have to manipulate the soil and whatnot and put in a racking system to hold the panels in place. In this situation, we actually affix the solar panels to a high-density polyethylene float, and then those are easily attached to each other, and then the project is floated out onto the body of water and then anchored to the side, okay, above the water grade. And you can see that on the second page. There's an installation going on in that picture right there, and it shows you how simple it is. You basically bolt these floats together with the mounted high-density PV models, and then you push the floats into the water. And so you can see how modular it is and how quick and easy the installation can be. And we can actually install a megawatt in 3 to 4 weeks at a time. So this whole project would take a total of about 3 months to complete once the PV panels and the modules are in place. There's lots of advantages associated with floating solar over land-based solar. One, the efficiency is much greater, 10 to 15% greater because of the cooling effect of the water. You also have a lower angle of incidence to the sun, which allows for much less shading between the panels themselves. So in essence, for the same surface area coverage, we get twice as much power production as you would from a traditional land-based solar system. So we require half the land to make the same amount of power. So in this case, we're using 14 acres and we're getting 5 megawatts of dispatchable AC power to the grid, where the plant that's being proposed that you were referring to next door uses 50 acres to get 10. Okay, so we're half as much of the land space. And you can see, I'm not going to go through each one individually, but you can see some of the other benefits. And the predominant benefit is the ease of installation and the flexibility in the positioning of the power plant itself on the body of water, as well as the decommissioning. That makes it very easy at the end and very cost effective to be able to take it out. I mean, it's done the same way. You pull it back in and you disconnect it, they're just bolted together. And so it's very easy to decommission as well. Now, the third page there, these are actual projects that are in place and been operational for several years in these locations. And these are just a non-exhaustive list of the ones that our team, D3 Energy is our EPC, and the technology designer is CLE Terre. And these are projects that they've been directly involved in. And if you notice, the Sayreville, the number 3 project there, is about the same size and actually is located on an aquifer down in New Jersey. So there's plenty of demonstration. This is just in the Northeast United States, basically. The next page is a basic summary of the project from several different angles. One, we show you the project timeline. And so the first phase should be completed within 18 months of approval. The second phase will be done in about 32 months. Okay, so it's a very rapid process. The design is very simple because as long as the water is deep enough, we can quickly and easily install the project. And like I said, the interconnection study has already been submitted. Now, I put in some of the financial summary for a reason. Okay, it shows you what the internal rate of return is with the tax credits in place that are currently at risk because of the new bills going through the House and Senate. The finances work out very well, and what's important in those numbers is from my experience working globally and within the DoD for infrastructure projects, institutional investment in loans typically look for an internal rate of return of 18%, okay, before they will provide the financing for a project for infrastructure. And without the investment tax credit, we drop below that threshold. Now, what's interesting about this project is the owners of the land are actually going to finance the project themselves. And to provide the revenue necessary to build the project, they have to sell the sand. Okay, and that's how they're doing this to build this solar project. Okay, and you can see the influences of these tax credits. We don't know exactly what where they're going to end up once they're passed, but it looks like we're going to have only a year or two of window to take advantage of these. So time is of the essence in this particular project. And quite frankly, from an industry standpoint, if these tax credits go away, it's going to be very, very difficult to implement many of these projects, the larger ones that the New York State is counting on, because the institutional financing and funding will go away because the money won't make sense to them. Now, the last page just is addressing the codes and whatnot, and it just shows, we're just demonstrating that the sand mines are the number 2 listed opportunity area for solar installation. And so that meets the local codes as well as the state, that's LIPA's strategic objectives to reach 70% renewables by 2030 and 100% carbon-free by 2040. This is the window of opportunity to be able to do that, especially if the tax credits go away. So do we have any questions about?
Yeah, I have two.
Yep, okay.
One, these 2 transmission towers that you show, are they yours or are they LIPA's?
No, those are LIPA. This is just a configuration of showing what the principal parameters are for a solar project. Our pieces would be the floating solar on the water and the inverters on the land. Okay, now this is not to scale by any stretch of the imagination. We have 32 inverters to perform. We have 9,142 PV panels that will go on the water reservoir to 32 inverters.
And that LIPA tower is there already?
Yeah, those LIPA towers are all there. Yep. The connection's right outside.
They're just lines.
Yeah, those are just power lines. That's all that
could be a big-
recognizes. The transformer is what's important, and that's just outside the gate of the facility. That's right on I don't know what road that is, but it's right outside. That's why we placed the transmission inverters and whatnot right here, so that we could easily access the
So you're connecting to the transformer and not?
Yep, and then that puts it into the grid.
Yes.
Correct.
So that it's underground, it's not
Right.
up in the air.
So,
No, we're not putting any towers in. No. We have a very small land-based footprint, and that's just a concrete pad that will hold the inverters. That's all.
so my second question is about fluctuating water levels. I assume this is groundwater?
Yeah.
That fills your pond?
Yes.
Groundwater?
Yep.
What happens with fluctuating water levels?
Well, right now, I think the fluctuation is plus or minus 10 feet is what we've designed for, but it's 5 feet either way. So, and that's the groundwater changes because of drought,
Right.
all different variations. Of
What happens
reasons.
if we have a real bad drought?
Well, then
I could talk to this.
yeah, he's gonna talk about the water and stuff, so I'll let him, he's a geologist, so.
Okay. Any other questions from, okay, so let's,
Yes. Thank you.
thank you. Thanks for the handouts, they're helpful.
Yeah.
Sure.
Good afternoon. Thank you again for having us. My name is Chris Armskog. I'm a professional geologist. I'm with PW Grosser Consulting, 630 Johnson Avenue, Bohemia, New York. To answer the last question about groundwater fluctuations, we did look at groundwater fluctuations through USGS for the past 100 years, and generally the range out there is about 7 feet. That's highs and lows. That's the general. So we did look at that, and so it is designed so if the water table does drop naturally, as it does, there's room for the solar panels to drop with that water table, the way the anchors would be placed, and so they won't go high and dry and sit on the bottom. So that was looked at. There is a little buffer, so we did take that into consideration.
Worst case scenario, high and dry, what happens?
They sit on the sand that's right there, and they still operate, but it's to reach that, we'd probably be looking at a low water table that we haven't seen in 100 years.
We've been seeing 100-year storms every other week.
No, I know that, and that's why we looked at fluctuations over the past 100 years of the groundwater.
And so if it is on the ground and the water is gone, what's the environmental impact?
I think, as far as I understand, these work fine sitting on the ground.
Yeah, it's not ideal for the flows, but we did lower transmission or lower generation because of the fact
I can't take the testimony.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry.
I can't hear you.
you would get lower generation of power because the angle of the PV panels wouldn't be ideal. I mean, these are designed to be ideal. And quite frankly, I mean, you can speak to the water better, but a 100-year storm is something that Mother Nature can throw at us. But for your water table to go down to totally dry up, we've got bigger fish to fry. You know, if that water ran out for whatever reason, that wouldn't be because of us. In fact, quite frankly, the PV panels on the surface of water prevents evaporation, which in turn means more water in the reservoir.
What's the depth of these reservoirs?
40 feet, I think.
They're down 40 feet.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm pretty sure it's 40 feet.
Yeah, about 40 to 45 feet is the,
Yeah.
40 to 45 feet below the current water table is the depth of the mining operation.
And there is no environmental impact.
No, these high-density polyethylene is the only thing that'll be in contact with the water. The anchors are outside on the banks, okay? So that very first page, it shows the anchoring at high water, low water, and medium water. And so they're always outside of the water. There's no, in this particular design, there's no anchors in the water itself, okay? And the only thing that comes in contact with the water is the high-density polyethylene, which is what we use for almost all water transmission in the last 30, 40 years. Your pipelines all through the city are high-density polyethylene pipelines. And, you know, high-density polyethylene is what you use for your water bottles. You know, that's,
Which are not very good.
well, they don't decompose. That's the point is that,
Plastic,
yeah, well,
yes.
So-
Okay, I don't want to interrupt. Go ahead.
And then another part of your question, there are no oils or fluids or you know, no transmission fluids or PCBs in the panels, so that doesn't exist. The panels are no liquids or fluids to leach out to get into the water. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the environmental potential concerns. So I'll go through this a little bit. I'm going to start with traffic and noise and visual, and then we'll move into groundwater because I know that's one of the bigger issues that people have had. So traffic, to bring all this equipment to the site, that'll require about 75 trucks. That'll go over about 3 months. It's important to note as they move into phase 2, that means mining operations have been done, and you're not going to be having trucks leave this come or leave from the site because material isn't going to be leaving anymore. So the traffic and the truck traffic going in is fairly insignificant. Noise. The site is set back from Spionk Riverhead Road right now. Right now there's heavy equipment that operates there, dredging equipment. Anything as part of the solar installation, both the construction and the operations, the noise will be even less than it is now. And again, there is a setback. It's a fairly industrial area.
Excuse me.
Visual. The mine's there right now. You can't see it from the road. You can't. The pond is, the man-made pond is about 40 feet below street level. There's a buffer between Spionk Riverhead Road and Sunrise Highway, a vegetative buffer. So there's no visual access to see the current mine, the current pond, and these panels will be sitting on the pond, so they won't be visually seen from the neighbors or the surrounding roadways. Water quality. I know this is the big one. So I know everyone's anxious to wonder what's in these boxes. This is just 2 years of data that's been collected at the site that's publicly available. There are no this is all just individual reports. So I'm going to get into, there is a lot of data that's been collected at this site and other mine sites that go back for decades. This site in particular has been taking groundwater samples for over a decade, and they basically participated in a voluntary study over the past few years with New York State DEC, where they're even sampling a more aggressive sampling regime and providing all that data to the DEC. It's all publicly available on the website as well. Let's see. Based on the data that's available from this site, and my background, I'm a geologist. I've been in the business for 28 years. I specialize in groundwater and groundwater flow, investigations, and remediation projects. So with this site, I've looked at the site, the data for the past 10 years that's been collected, along with other mining sites on Long Island. I'm going to give you, right now there are 8 dedicated monitoring wells around the site. Locations are chosen by DEC. They're screened at different intervals, meaning some are higher in the aquifer, some are lower. So you could see basically what might be flowing onto the site, what might be flowing off the site. So you really encompass the site to understand what the groundwater flow conditions are and what the quality is. Right now, for the past 10 years, the site, these wells have been sampled between 2 or 4 times a year, depending on which year it was.
Excuse me, is that
Yes.
because it's near the plume, the Spionk plume?
It is, this site is across the street and a little bit further north than the Spionk Plume. That's located on the west side of Spionk Riverhead Road, kind of a little bit to the west of where the asphalt facility is. So this, basically it's been done, sampled that much because voluntarily for the past decade, because the operators of the facility really wanted to make sure, see what the data was, see if there are any impacts to groundwater, if operations would have an impact to groundwater. So they voluntarily, for the past 7 years, been sampling it themselves and supplying the data to DEC. The past 2 years, they joined this voluntary program that DEC put out, where there are several Long Island mine sites who have volunteered to be part of the study. The study is going to be going on for about another year to year and a half, and at that time, New York State DEC and DOH will evaluate all the results and make some recommendations. So,
So you're not part of the Superfund site?
no. Along this area, it is a good point. Down probably about probably 1,000 yards to the south is B&S Lumber. They had, I think, significant environmental issues there. In this area, groundwater flows from the north to the south. So both the B&S Lumber site is located hydraulically down gradient. The Spionk Plume that's on the west side of Spionk Riverhead Road flows to the south. That's more cross gradient, but also down gradient. So neither of those sites flow, the groundwater from neither of those sites will flow onto the site. It's just hydraulically, the groundwater doesn't flow that way. That brings me, I'll just introduce this for a minute. This is a figure of the site. These blue, right here is the property outline. The red line is the life of mine, so where active mining could occur. This is almost the current state of the pond, the man-made pond. The wells are represented by these circles, kind of to go all around the site. The blue lines represent, those are ISO lines of basically similar groundwater elevations. And so what you do is you measure the depth of water in these wells, and then you figure out what is an ISO line of the groundwater, and then groundwater flows perpendicular to those ISO lines. So groundwater flows basically from Sunrise Highway. It flows pretty much due south. There is a little bit of a southeasterly component to it. So groundwater will flow this way. So anything on the site will continue flowing south. With the pond, you get a little natural and very localized mounding that occurs. It's very normal around all ponds. So just, that's why you see these little curves above and beyond. That's very, very natural. So when you look at groundwater contamination and the flow of groundwater, and when you look to place wells for drinking water, you generally want to look up gradient and see, do you have any potential sources of contamination that might affect your well that you're going to have to treat. So some of the data I'll talk about, we do occasionally see minor hits of contaminants. By the way, let me just read what, for the past 10 years, they've been sampling for VOCs, SVOCs, pesticides, PCBs, total and dissolved metals, chlorine, fluoride, bromine, iodine, sulfate, sulfides, phosphates, nitrates, ammonia, alkalinity, total dissolved solids, and they add in what are called QA/QC samples, and they do this under what's called Category B deliverables. It's a very high-end package that gets sent to certified laboratories, and they have to run a lot of QA/QC to ensure the validity of the data. All right. So what the data has shown us over the past 10 years at the site And groundwater at the site over the past 10 years has fluctuated roughly between 15 and 20 feet above sea level. You know, like we said before, it could fluctuate another few feet above and below that, but based on USGS numbers that we've looked around the area for the past 70 to 100 years. So that's been taken into account. The groundwater flow is to the south. There has not, based on the past 10 years of sampling, there doesn't appear to be any negative impact to the groundwater quality from mining operations at the site. There occasionally are small hits in some of the sampling protocol, some of the sampling wells. They seem to be focused mostly up on the north side, this well, right along the northern property boundary, and also one down in the western corner that's adjacent to this industrial property, right on the property line. It's very, it's not many contaminants that are found, and most of them are below what are called the drinking water standards. The theory is there's runoff from the highway that gets caught in the catch basin during storm events. Things such as oils and also metals go in the catch basin. Some of them leach through the ground, and that causes the SVOCs we're seeing leach down through the property and migrate to the south. By the time they get to the southern wells, a lot of those things have dissipated out and don't really exist anymore. Or the concentrations greatly diminish. The main tells of that are basically some of the sodium and chlorides that we're seeing right over here, which would be from road salts, are showing up. And then also we're seeing some manganese and iron that are very natural in Long Island soils, but under the right geochemistry conditions, they migrate until they precipitate out. One thing about having a pond, it introduces a lot more oxygen to the water table. Oxygen allows things to both volatilize, and also it allows metals to precipitate out, such as iron and manganese, rust and things like that. So in conversations with DEC, sometimes when you drive by a pond and you see a sprinkler going on in it, that's sometimes to basically aerate the pond to help with certain conditions. One of them would be to help natural metals migrate out. I'll keep it short. I know there's a lot there. Over the years, no pesticides, PCBs have been detected in excess of standards. Again, we've seen a few SVOCs and things like iron, manganese, and sodium in some of the wells, and that's been well documented. One of the reasons, again, what we were talking about, they voluntarily started this program sampling about a decade ago. In addition, in order to ensure they wouldn't have any impact on groundwater, they moved over to electrified equipment, electrified conveyor belts rather than running, heavy diesel equipment in the mine. They've basically installed the electric dredge. They installed the sampling monitoring well network, and they voluntarily sampled and entered these programs to kind of show that there's nothing to hide. There's data. Again, this is just 2 years of reports. So,
Okay.
If there's ever any question, I could direct you to all the data that's available. But we just want to show there's really nothing to hide. There's plenty of information. We'd be happy to share it and go over it in more depth if you
Okay.
have questions.
Thanks very much.
With that, any
Thorough.
questions from the?
No?
Any mulching, or is it just sand mining?
Good question. They had a portion of the property that they did mulch. They stopped doing that about 9 years ago when Suffolk County did a study, Suffolk County Department of Health. That's when it came out that mulching could cause the conditions that allow things like manganese and iron to come into the soil. So they ceased those operations. Again, that's another thing that they voluntarily did. They were allowed to keep doing it, but because of the potential to impact groundwater, they stopped those operations at the site about 10 years ago. I think it was about 8 or 9 years ago.
Any other questions from the?
Question, just two questions, just out of curiosity. Your map there showing your isolines, just what's the values of those isolines in terms of the gradient from top to bottom?
This is 19 feet at the north end. This is 17 and a half feet at the southern end. So roughly over, this is roughly about 3,000 feet. It drops about 1.5 feet. So it's a fairly flat contour.
Okay. And just out of curiosity also, a pond like this that's created out of an active mining site in a fairly barren of anything else happening. Has there any life been established in the pond, aquatic life?
There's been nothing established, nothing seeded, no fish have been, brought to the pond. So there's nothing there yet. It's an active excavation site. Anything that, again, it's not really considered, you haven't had vegetation grow, you don't have organics along the side, it's sand. So it doesn't quite fit the definition, the New York State definition of wetland, because you don't have those soils that.
It wasn't
that
wetlands.
support
I'm
growth.
just curious what
But at
happens.
this time, there's nothing's been
in a pond like
introduced
this
and nothing.
if eventually while
Yeah.
things are happening. 'Cause,
Eventually.
life is kind of automatically drawn towards water.
Yeah.
So I didn't
Yeah.
know if you had things
Yeah.
kind of happening at that point.
So I did have,
Yeah.
one more thing just to note, and part of the plan, again, the amortization plan, by moving forward with the solar on this project, it almost incentivizes them to finish up the mining sooner so they could get the solar in place. So that's one thing that we've had a discussion. It's, so that they're almost incentivized to kind of move faster to get the panels in place. But any other questions? Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks very much. So I think we've heard all aspects of it. And unless you have anything more to say, is there anyone on Zoom?
No one on Zoom.
One person? Can you bring them in?
No one on Zoom, sorry.
No one on Zoom.
Somebody in the back, though.
Yeah, please. We have someone here, Kevin.
Good evening, members of the board. Thanks for the opportunity to speak with you. My name is Brian Tiemann from West Hampton Beach. 5 more days, I'm still a sitting West Hampton Beach Village trustee. Be done with my tenure in 5 days. I'm a newer member of this team, and the one thing I wanted to address and introduce myself as a member of the team is my focus on the word opportunity with a project like this. I have a history in solar, environmental science degree with Southampton College, and projects like this excite me very much. And again, I focus on that word opportunity to make projects like this the best they can be. It's a unique project. I've never worked with a floating solar system, but I've worked in solar for a long time. An advocate for environmental protection. And so this is a really fun project for me to explore opportunities. I've already engaged with several organizations in the community, both longstanding organizations for environmental protection and also some newer, innovative startup organizations, specifically focused on water quality monitoring that I'm working with on a voluntary basis with some scientists in the area to better understand water quality and impacts of nutrient loading and the things that actually George had alluded to in terms of what's going on in this pond now and what's going in the future. So I see a lot of potential for education, bringing education into this project for floating solar, but even more so ecologically, understanding water quality, and with things like this being the way of the future, and I expect to see a lot more innovative projects like this that we can better understand them going forward and see what the ecological benefits can be in the surface water, groundwater, and again, education and including the community in understanding these systems better. So I hope to see you again and interact with you on the topic of that opportunity that we can, I think, really make a really good, great project out of this. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Thanks so much. Is your name spelled T-E-A-M-A-N?
T-Y-M-A-N.
It is Tymann. Thanks.
Great, thank you. So no further comments from the board? Entertain a motion to close with a 10-day written comment period. Motion by,
The pre-submission conference?
No.
no,
It's not a
Public
pre-submission.
hearing.
not pre-submission, no.
Oh, no, it is pre-submission.
It doesn't
Says-
say that.
says
On
public
the
hearing.
agenda, I think an error on the agenda, but on the notice it says pre-submission.
Okay, this just says pre-app, so it's pre-submission?
It's
So
pre-submission.
that's a 30-day written comment period?
Motion.
Pre-submission by Dennis, second by Gloria, and all in favor? Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 2 absent. Thank you very much. Motion to adjourn by George, second by Gloria, and all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 2 absent. We are adjourned.